but yeah, I was just saying, imagine a 13-year-old who's being told, like, you're not old enough to make decisions yet, or something along those lines. That 13-year-old, who knows, just that one thought, that one message that was passed on to them, in the future, it might be they might second guess themselves for the rest of their lives, because it'll be
Yeah,
inside of them like, "Oh, am I able to make this decision? Am I capable of making decisions?" And then they'll
yeah,
lose that self-trust and all of that. So it's super important for parents, I think, to just understand that what they say is so, like, it has such a big impact, whether that's positive or negative.
hmm,
And that's like, it's scary too, because the number of rules that you're instilling inside of their heads every single day just by talking to them, it's crazy. And that's like shaping them to be who they are, in the future.
yeah.
So
When you're talking about this, makes me think about my dad. So my dad was an amazing dad. Okay, but um, I was the oldest, and then I had my brother who was 2 years younger than me, and my dad always was like, "Oh, you're my little girl," and he'd take care of me, and you know, he would do more for me than he would do for my brother.
mm,
Like, uh, I got my first car, and he was like, I wanted an MGB because my friend had one and I loved it, a convertible.
yeah.
And he comes to me and he goes, "Oh, great. I have a friend who owns a Volkswagen dealership.
Hmm.
So we're going to work a deal here. I'm going to buy the car for you, but you have to, now that you have a job, you have to pay, it was like $40 a month or something, you know,
Yeah.
towards the payment." And I'm like, "Okay." And I go, "What kind of car is it?" And then he goes, "A Volkswagen Bug convertible." And I was
Yeah.
disappointed because I wanted an MGB. What a spoiled brat. And I got to drive that car off the showroom floor. Literally, they opened the big doors and I got to drive, had to learn how to use a stick really well. But brand new Volkswagen convertible.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was a pretty hot car.
Hmm.
And so then my brother, 2 years later, my dad goes, "Yeah, I'm going to buy you a car." He gives him a really old bug, an old bug that has no convertible or anything.
Yeah.
Then when I graduated from college, my dad, I asked for driving school because I really race car driving school, but I didn't get that. I got a ring. I got a pearl and diamond ring.
Hmm.
And um, and then when my brother goes, "Yeah, Dad bought me a 6-pack of beer." And I'm like, and so my whole life, I've never I got married right after college because I felt I couldn't take care of myself. My dad took care of me all through college,
Hmm.
then my ex, and I've never throughout my life felt like I could financially take care of myself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was, and here's my brother, he's a sales machine.
Hmm.
I think because he treated me this way, it made me feel that I'm not worthy of making money,
Yeah.
or I can't take care of myself.
Yeah.
And he did it out of love,
Hmm.
but you know,
Yeah. I think I got lucky as a well, I mean, I got lucky, but also inherently, just because of the choices, I guess, that I made in my life, it allowed me to get a perspective where I was able to step out of that situation and look at it from another point of view. Because I mean, yeah, when I was sure, I left home at 13, and then I was able to, I wasn't constantly getting like mom and dad's, like, thoughts and everything in my head all the time. I was able to find myself a lot quicker, which was very good. And then what happened was, is the more and more that I started to find myself, then when I would get information from other people, I would just say, like, okay, does this align with what I believe? And if it did, then I'd take it and I'd use it in some way. And if it didn't, then I'd question it and then maybe I wouldn't use it. Whereas I feel like a lot of teenagers are lost. Like they're trying to figure it out. trying to figure out. I'd even go as far as to say I think most people are that way. Most people just going through life are trying to figure out who they are and what they want.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whether it's a kid, a teenager, an adult, whoever. And I think that's when most people go to other people for advice and for guidance because they don't know where to go and what to do. But it's almost
Right.
like we want to do our best to become our own best mentors, our own best
Hmm.
guides, so that when we know who we are, what we want, and everything, that we have that guide, we have that vision, we have that path that we're following. That when other people are giving us advice and guidance that maybe we're seeking out, maybe we're not seeking out, we're able to filter it through our own beliefs that we've created ourselves, not from anyone else, and then move forward. And I think
Hmm.
that's like that's the perfect balance. But first, you have to kind of know, who you are and what you want.
Yeah. Well, so if
Yeah.
we go back to what or I don't even know if it was on the recording, but originally talking about was um, the words that you say to your child
Mm,
are very delicate. You need to be careful what you say, because if you say something that it doesn't seem like it's anything, like, oh, let me help you with that because it's hard for you, or um, you're trying to be kind and do this for them, but then you're also putting, like you said, in their head that, oh, they're not capable.
yeah.
I'm not capable of this, or it's too hard. I can't do it. So I need you to help me, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
to be careful of the words we use,
Yeah. And
empowering,
it's
not, and you don't intend to do it.
yeah.
I mean, it's not, well, I should say most parents need to be careful. I just was talking to, this is an interesting conversation that I was having with my friend's daughter, who's got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and she's struggling. And I remember those times just struggling with, okay, she's 4 now and she won't do what I tell her to do. And she's fighting
Mm,
back, and she's being naughty and all this. And she's spanking her now. And I'm just like, ah. She goes,
mm,
well, it's hard for my husband to do it. He doesn't feel right doing it, but I was spanked when I was growing up and it worked out for me. It scared me. And I just heard a podcast where they were talking about that, or it was on the news or something, and they were talking about how spanking, it may work like this for now, but it doesn't last. And it puts in a bad, like, why is my parent hitting me? I did it once or twice when my kids were little, and it felt terrible. I hated it. Um,
yeah.
because
I
somebody
think
told me to do that. And I was like, it doesn't feel right.
yeah.
And so, that going back, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a whole there's so many ways to deal with different situations. If kids aren't behaving or they're not, doing what we want them to do, I guess, or whatever. There's like I almost want to say it's not literally this, but we'll call it like there's the dark side and then there's the light side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this really, really good I'm pretty sure it just came out, but I saw a clip from a podcast by Jay Shetty and this other guy. His name is Russ, and he's like a musician. And he was saying that there's light motivation and there's dark motivation. Dark
Mm-hmm.
motivation is when you're motivated by something like vengeance or revenge or proving people wrong or going against something or someone. And whereas it can be effective, it's not sustainable because when you achieve what you want to achieve or when you get to that point, you haven't dealt with the issue, you haven't dealt with the problem. Whereas light motivation is when you're inspired, you're doing something because you're driven by a purpose, by a mission, and it's more empowering and you're going through things a more positive way. Maybe it happens slower, that could be a possibility, but you'll still get there and you won't have any of these demons and things that are weighing you down in any way. So it's more
Mm-hmm.
sustainable that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like that same concept applies to parents who are interacting with their kids because if they are doing things that are quote unquote negative, whether that is, inflicting any emotional or physical pain, those scars, even though in the immediate, like they're gonna get the result that they want, right? But so immediately it's fine. But then in the long run, how that's gonna affect that kid in the future when they become adults, we don't know. And it could be really bad. It's trauma. These are memories and these are thoughts that they will have for the rest of their lives. And just imagine it's forming their identity.
Yeah.
It's literally part of their identity. And then just one more thing that I wanted to pitch in there, because we've talked about this before, but Lisa Nichols, who talks about communication in the Mind Valley course, and we mentioned this in a previous podcast, but she talks about the responsibility of our words, right? Us
Mhm.
talking, when we're having a conversation, the words that we say and the things that we say and how we say them, the intention that we have behind everything that we say, we have a responsibility when we are talking to other people. And I'm pretty sure she used the comparison of us driving. When we're driving, we're responsible for ourselves, our own lives, the passengers in the car, plus the lives of every single person who is on the road, walking on the sidewalk, everyone. We have a
Yeah.
responsibility to obey the rules and all that stuff. The same thing applies when communicating, because one thing that is said could lead to an accident, or one thing that is said could lead to someone being hurt for the rest of their lives. So
Right.
we have such a huge responsibility when we're talking and when we're exchanging with other people, especially the people who we're raising. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm coming from a point of view as a kid, literally from a kid, but I understand what it's like to, yeah, be told certain things and then not understand why, and to be hurt by those words, right?
Right.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily from my parents or my family, but from so many people, coaches that I've had in soccer, teachers who have told me that my dreams are impossible to achieve. And I've been like, oh, like, you know,
Yeah.
even though I can be as stoic as possible and, just say, whatever. Yeah. If many people are telling you the same thing over and over again, that can hurt. So, yeah, I
Sure.
think we have a huge responsibility when it comes to the way we communicate with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's and like you've got this my friend's daughter who's her little 4-year-old is naughty, so I'm
Yeah.
going to spank you, and then you better do what I tell you to do.
Mm,
Is what kind of message is that sending versus something like, hey, let's talk about why I'm asking you to do this. Okay,
yeah.
here's the reason, blah blah blah, here's why. And it's for, could have, at least you're saying there's a purpose for why I want you to do this, or you need to do this because this is
Mm,
going to help you to learn this or whatever it's going to. So choose and give a couple of choices. If you want to do it this way, that's fine. Or if you want to do it this way, you pick.
yeah.
Give them some power that you have parameters on,
Yeah.
but tell why, you know?
Yeah. I think there's always a better way to do things. Always.
Mhm.
And if you just step back and think about it, just think about the way you're reacting or think about what you're about to do. Just take a few seconds just to think about it, and maybe you'll come up with something better.
Yeah.
And
And
that's all it takes.
I know because I remember when my middle one was 4 and he was a terror. And oh, Kyle, Kyle.
Yeah.
And you do get, I just remember,
Mm,
because they're driving you nuts. They're not doing, he was in the back seat. And I remember this one time so badly because we were in the car. He was in his car seat behind me, and he's just like kicking my seat, doing all this stuff. And I just was like, and I pulled over the car and I just undid his seat and I spanked him because I was so frustrated and angry. And afterwards, I just felt like, oh, what did I do? I
yeah.
didn't stop to think. Wait, you're angry. Don't do it now. Just calm down. Take a deep breath. I should have pulled over. I should have walked to the other side of the car
Mm,
and then gone back to handle it,
yeah.
because that is one thing. And even with teenagers, that's a toddler, right? 4-year-old or little preschooler. And it's frustrating. And then it happens again when they're teenagers because they just do it in a different way. They're just bigger.
Yeah.
And again, instead of lashing out and saying stuff, stop, take a deep breath, walk away if you have to,
Yeah.
and then come back and have a conversation of why.
Yeah. And also, like, I think I have a question here, and I think it might be a rhetorical question, but are you like, why are you reacting that way? Are you reacting that way because it's good for the kid? Or are you reacting that way so that you can feel better in some way? Or so that you
Good
can at least
question.
feel that relief?
Yeah, I like that. That is such a powerful question because it's such a powerful question, and you have to think about that. I didn't even think of it that way. That's great.
Because I feel like, think about it, like a 4-year-old kid, hypothetically,
Hmm.
doesn't know a single thing, if we're being honest, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't know anything about life, right?
Right. Yeah.
Has only been around for 4 years
Right.
and is just living life the way he, she, they know to live life. Like that, that's how it is.
Hmm.
So it's almost one of those things where, can you blame them for acting that way necessarily?
Right.
Maybe not, because they're little, like they're little kids.
Yeah.
And even as teenagers, I mean, teenagers are going to be teenagers. They are that way. They're figuring things out as well. And yes, sometimes they do things that are bad. Like, we can say it that way. They're bad things, bad
Hmm.
decisions, all that stuff. But to know that, in fact, I think this is the case for most situations, when if someone does something bad and they're punished for it in a
Hmm.
bad way, odds are they're not going to stop doing that thing.
Right.
Or
Because they don't
or
understand what it's. Oh, it's wrong, but I don't know why it's wrong. Or
exactly.
you don't even give them a chance to feel the natural consequences that happen of a bad decision.
There we go. And the other flip side to it is, maybe they do stop, but they stop out of fear. And then that fear severs a bit of the relationship that you have with them then. Because now,
Yeah.
instead of, think about it this way, if you start off in life with 100% love, right? That's what your bar is, at 100% of love. The more and more that you do anything in any way to, whether it's, instill fear in them or any sort of negative emotion, it's almost like
Mhm.
you're replacing the love with some other negative emotion. And then what happens is, instead of feeling 100% love, they might be at 80% love, but there's that 20% where it's fear. They're scared of you,
Mhm.
right? And just,
Yeah.
you have to wonder, like, what is that doing to the relationship in the long run? And it's scary.
Yeah.
It's like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh my God, because I can definitely, like, go back to times in my life where, you know I've made decisions not based off of, you know happiness and love, but yeah, maybe based off of fear of how someone else is going to react to something,
Yeah,
because
my
of,
dad's gonna kill me, or
possibly, I don't think I've ever thought that. But
I mean, I don't mean literally. I mean, just
yeah.
I'm gonna be in big trouble if I do this, or yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I remember one situation where, yeah, I mean, this is back, I don't know, back when I was in Canada, so I was pretty young, and I think I was on FaceTime with this girl who I liked, and I lied to my dad because I didn't know how he was gonna react to that, and he didn't like the fact that I was dishonest with him. He wasn't unhappy about what I was doing. He was unhappy about the fact that I wasn't honest with him.
Yeah.
And but it just goes to show, like, I had this thing in my head where I was afraid of the reaction that I was going to get from him, which is why I was not honest.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I mean, they're just those little things. And I think it's normal to act sometimes like you're afraid, so you're afraid of someone else's reaction, but it's one thing to act that way when you know how they're going to react, but it's another thing to think about how they might react and then you act according to that. And I might be saying a bunch of crazy stuff and it's hard to understand, but the whole idea is that you just have to be super careful of the emotions that you are making your kids feel, because you have
Mhm.
no idea how that's going to impact your relationship, but also them in the future.
Yeah, yeah. They always say don't be friends with your child, but I think you can be friends with your child. I think you can
Yeah.
be friends with your teenager. Um, but you set boundaries, just because they to do what's best for them,
And
have
yeah,
boundaries.
and think about it. What is a friend? Like
Yeah,
a
not
friend
friend
isn't
isn't mean.
someone, yeah, and a friend isn't someone who's like just hyping you up all the time and saying yes, 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 do this, do that. No, no, no. A friend is someone who's going to be there for you no matter what. A friend is someone who's going to love you no matter what. And a friend is someone who's going to tell you the way things are. If you're not doing something the way you're supposed to be doing, then they'll tell you, but it's all going to be out of love. And I think
Yeah,
being friends, like developing a relationship with your teen, especially, where you can be that friend, you can be that person who they go to for advice if they're going through something or whatever that is, to develop that trust. That's a sweet spot. I think that's like the
yeah,
ideal place to be in. In fact,
it
you
totally
you
is.
almost you almost want to be your teen's friend,
Yeah,
right?
and then to come to, I've heard this recently, and I think it's so good. It's just to say, if they're upset or whatever, you say, so do you want me to just listen to you right now and just be
Mhm.
here next to you? Or do you want some advice?
Yeah,
How do you want me to be for you right now? So that, maybe they just want to get it out, or whatever, and they're upset and they don't want you to just give them advice. They just want you to listen,
yeah,
So ask them that. That's a really good tip, I think, to just be who they need right then. They might
yeah,
not want advice. They just want you to listen or just be there next to them or hug them.
yeah,
Um, you know, but yeah, I think connection is so important and it can be ruined so easily by what we say to
yeah.
our kids. And um yeah, I don't ever want my kids to be afraid of me.
Mhm.
I'm supposed to be their support, their love, not to have them worried that I'm going to hit them or say something to them that's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
That's not what you want. So I think it's really important to really think and stop and before you do something you might regret and that will
Mhm.
hurt them in the end.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
that what you said about the negative and the positive and the light and the dark.
Yeah.
We don't want to ever come from negative. Negative's just,
Mm.
there's no point in negative.
Yeah. I think
They'll
negative
get the
is,
negative reinforcement
yeah.
from the outside of what their decisions are
Yeah.
at some point to correct them. If it's wrong, they're going to get that. Somehow they're going to get it back.
Yeah.
It's going to happen naturally. It doesn't have to come from you. You can say, well, that choice wasn't so good, was it? You might
Mm.
say that.
Yeah. And the negative is always, it's like an immediate fix, but
Mhm.
it doesn't solve
Mm,
anything. And it
mm-mm.
even makes things worse. It's kind of like sometimes you have those like those prescribed medications with all of those side effects.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like it'll heal that one thing, and it won't even heal it actually. It'll relieve that one pain,
a
but
symptom.
it'll cause so many underlying problems and issues.
Yeah,
So
same thing.
yeah,
Very
I'm not a
similar.
pharmacist, by the way, or like any doctor or anything, so please don't come for me. But yeah,
That's a good analogy. It's a good analogy though to really point out it's the same thing. Yeah.
yeah,
And you ever, relieving the symptom in a relationship or relieving a symptom in your child, they're hurting or they're doing something, it doesn't go deep. You're still not getting to the root. What's the
yeah,
root cause? Why are you feeling this way? What's going on? What made you choose to do that decision versus this? Let's get to the part that's going to last forever and help them grow instead of just slapping a band-aid on it by doing something negative and psh, done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
All righty. Wow, that was a
My
good
deep
one.
today.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
everyone, thank you for watching, listening, and for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to, put them in the comments below. Reach out to Susan if you have any questions as well. You can email her, you can DM me on Instagram if you have any questions for me, and
yeah,
we'll see you next week.
yeah, for sure.
Thanks
All
for tuning
right.
in, everyone.
All right, go
Like and
make some great
subscribe.
decisions. Huh? Yep,
Like and
subscribe.
subscribe.
All right, ciao.
Take care, everyone.